It does feel like the game's kind of like in a beta state. Let's say, hypothetically, the game doesn't get any updates from here. I think the game would only last about like 6 months, and that's being very generous. They need to fix some of this jank, broken stuff. They need to polish up the presentation. But if you can look past that stuff, I feel like this game does have potential as a competitive game. A lot of people are going to be turned off that the fact that there isn't voice acting, and it's something that needs to be addressed. It definitely needs to be patched in.
Okay, so taking a little bit of a break from the Street Fighter discussion, we have a brand new game that just came out on October 5th. And that is Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl. We've also been calling it Nick Smash because it's very plainly a copy of Super Smash Bros. And I don't say that with any negativity associated with it. The same idea as Mortal Kombat copying Street Fighter. It's just sort of the format, and it's totally acceptable. But brand new game here where it's a platform fighter, but it's got characters from across the generations of Nickelodeon's Nicktoons shows, and the potential for this is absolutely huge because you have the atmosphere and the recognizability of the Super Smash Bros, but then you have these characters that, like I said, people that are my age, in their 30s are going to recognize from their childhood, but then there's also characters that people that are still, 10 right now are going to recognize and want to play. And so the potential for this game is absolutely massive. But we've had it for, a day now, and then a handful of community members have been able to play it via early copies. And what we're seeing is there's a lot of polish that still needs to be applied to it. And there are some things that are making us wonder just how long this might last. Or maybe another way of saying it would be, will it be able to reach this massive potential that it has right now? Or will it sort of burn out, be a quick flash in the pan because it might not be all that deep? And so with me today to talk about this is our resident Smash expert, our Smash Melier,
10 points.
Justin Adaptive Trigger Gordon. Justin, thank you for coming on today. How are you?
I'm doing good. Actually, just got off a session of playing some online ranked just for this podcast, and I got a lot of things to say about the game. Yeah.
Right on. We can jump right into it. The idea here is, again, there's so much that this game could be, but there are some bumps in the road, and we'll talk about the good, we'll talk about the bad. But Justin, I'll turn it right over to you. What are some of the things that you're seeing right now that are giving you a little bit of hesitance, a little bit of trepidation in terms of how far this game might go?
So I have certain skepticism that developed from essentially, like, I guess you could say the day 0 or day -1 of Nick All-Star, where essentially the content creators and the professional players, they were allowed to stream the game. So from a spectator perspective, it feels like the characters are all just doing the same thing. And I remember specifically thinking, they're never pressing the block button. Like they're just attacking each other like over and over again.
So it feels kind of like an all offense, no defense, or at least that was an initial reaction.
Yeah, that was exactly my reaction. It's like, I knew the block button was in the game, but at the same time I was thinking, is there a block button? Like, even after having time to play the game, the VG Boot Camp, they recently did like a tournament, and I watched that, and I'm not sure about how the game will do from a spectator's perspective. But when you're playing it, it feels better than it.
It looks.
Yeah, it looks. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
It feels like the characters are just doing the same thing, and to some extent, all the characters do feel like they play pretty similarly. It's where pretty much you get a hit off and you pretty much have permission to just go to town on the opponent. If you're the one that's, dissing the damage like that, that feels really good.
Yeah, that's one of the first kind of things I guess I wanted to get to is how the game generally feels. Is it fun to, of course it's fun to dish out the damage and to see your opponent's meter go down, their health bar go down, or in this case their percentage go up and then eventually explode, but is the back and forth fun? When you are on defense or when you are at disadvantage, do you feel like you have the tools to creatively get away and reset the situation or counter your opponent, or do you feel helplessly on defense?
I was really worried that once you got hit, it was going to be like a touch of death type game. But I ran into a few opponents, and when I saw them essentially just sitting there in Shield, I was like, okay, I have permission to just go to town on them, and I would go in, and I was actually surprised to get punished in a lot of situations. The character I've been playing, and this is the only character I've played, is Leonardo, the Ninja Turtle. Mm-hmm. From what I could tell, he's actually a very good character. It seems like one of the best strategies with him is to go in with his down light attack, which it's very good for setting up combos. And a lot of the combo starters are the same for the characters, which it does make it a little bit easy to pick up, but it also goes into that problem where all the characters seem similar. But I actually remember specifically the SpongeBob player I was running into was actually pretty decent. There was this moment where I kept trying to pressure him with Leonardo's air light down attack. And he would just punish me with an up smash. I'm sorry, the up strong attack. I keep using smash terms.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen in this. No one will fault you.
There was a moment where he did his up strong attack, which is exactly the type of strategy you do with Mario in pretty much any Smash game, because he has actually a really good up smash attack, Mario. And it seems like SpongeBob is designed very similarly to that. I was like, okay, so I need to play around this defensive option a little bit more. So the SpongeBob actually beat me once, but after I started mixing, instead of going in for the just pure offense, I would just stay at a certain range and just poke him with standing light attack. He wasn't able to deal with it quite as well because Leonardo has that extra reach with his katanas.
Sure.
And I had to play differently around the defense option, which kind of alleviated some of my concerns a bit after that experience. And I think I beat that player 3 times after that. So
good. Screw that guy or girl.
Yeah.
It did feel like the fear would be that the game is more offensive and too heavily offensive. But what it sounds like you're saying is that a defensive puzzle solving kind of does emerge, especially once you've started to play. But maybe it's just not so apparent when you're watching. Is that fair to say?
Yes. Even when you're playing, it feels like the offense is dialed to 11 on a scale of 1 to 10. Mm-hmm. And my initial impression from watching, that defense was a 0. But it's really a 3 or a 4. It has its place, and even I found myself, just sitting back and shielding in certain situations and then going for the punish. So it does skew towards offense, which maybe that's not a bad thing if you're that melee mindset where, the melee players, they really enjoy the offense. They prefer that over the defensive styles of Brawl, which is the campiest in the series, Smash 4 and Ultimate, where the offense and defense are kind of balanced, but even in that game, the defensive is skewed towards defense.
A lot of the things that have been floating to the top of the social media and in kind of the highlights, or maybe kind of the negative highlights, are that there seem to be a lot of kind of broken things, which is normal for a vanilla version of a game, launch version of a game. But some of the things I've seen is 0 to death sequences, which that's a thing in Smash Bros, right? As far as I understand it, but you also don't want to have too much of that, because then it becomes almost a one-player game as someone gets a hit. And then, of course, what's making the rounds right now is the Sandy Infinite. I know that I saw Leffen, his chat asked him to try to break the game, and it didn't take him long to figure out with Michelangelo that he can basically go up above the camera from the screen and just kind of hang out there in the high up no man's land and repeatedly do one of his specials that just keeps him floating up there. And the other character, I'm sure different characters have different abilities that might make them able to reach him, but for a lot of the characters, they can't do anything about it, or they have to kind of try to guess where he's at, and it just shuts the whole game down. You could just get one hit or one stock and then go do that, and you're just run the timer out. So it feels like there are quite a bit of competitive issues with the game. But does that feel like those things are going to kind of void the competitive side of this, or are they fixable, and will the devs fix them in a timely manner? Because otherwise it's that's fun for all of 20 minutes, but then it doesn't go much deeper than I know how to do the Sandy Infinite. Do you want to go outside and throw the ball around now?
Yeah, so it's actually a rule in Smash tournaments. Stalling is illegal. So that type of strategy with Michelangelo is illegal. But people could still do that in an online setting, of course. But
Well, the point is too, sure, maybe it's not going to happen in tournament, But if that's available, what's to stop people from, like you say, just go online and just do that, and then that all of a sudden everyone online is Michelangelo, or every time you run into a Michelangelo online, you don't want to keep playing because it's like, oh, it's just going to be this again, and then again, let's go outside and throw the ball around.
Yeah, I think actually the clip, Leffen actually did do that too. He just hit somebody once, and he just started out the rest of the match. But I think he got like a 5% damage lead, and I mean that was the match pretty much.
So with those kinds of things floating around, I was like, well, my fear is that the developers went, okay, we have Smash Bros. People like that, know that. It's that kind of a setting. We have these really popular IPs with the Nicktoons, the likes of SpongeBob and such. And then maybe that's enough. And then we can just kind of do the bare minimum, and here it is. And we'll see how far that takes us, which that'll probably get some good sales. But again, that's not going to realize the potential that this game truly has. Now, Hungrybox, very prominent Smash competitor and content creator, did an interview with both Thaddeus Cruz and Marcus Villalobos, who are two of the main devs for this game, and they were talking about how much they do plan. Like they play a lot of Smash. They said, we are players, we are also developers, we understand where the players are coming from, we know a lot of what the players want, and we aim to make this a competitively viable game. And so like that was like, okay, good, so that they want to do that. But I'm afraid that with as many issues as there are right now, it's like they gotta jump on this and change a lot of this stuff very quickly.
Lincoln able to literally pogo around the opponent in the middle of the stage for 6 minutes, keeping them in place and winning by default. It was the stupidest thing, and I loved it. And you know what? Here's where I sit. This is a Nickelodeon platform fighter.
It is.
It's gonna be dumb. There's gonna be stupid stuff in this game, and some stuff, everybody in the game, oh man, this tool is broken. Oh, what? Look at this tool. It's busted. I don't care. It's the launch version. Have fun.
Yes.
Break it in half.
Break it. That's what I mean. You have to break it. You can't fix what isn't broken, right?
Do you feel like this game has the potential to hold on long enough to keep people's attention as it exists right now, or do you feel the same way that things need to change? A lot of things need to change rapidly if you want to retain your competitive audience.
So I actually remember seeing Thaddeus mention something about this in like Discord, where the developers were actually a bit crunched. Nickelodeon or whoever's paying the bills, I guess, they want the game out.
Ludosity, I think, and Fair Play Labs,
yeah. So they want the game out on October 5th, and I think Thaddeus's mindset. He said something to the effect of, if the game just had 6 more months of development time, the game would be less jank. And to be clear, the game does feel pretty jank at times. Like it's a fun kind of jank though. But and I think even during the interview, Thaddeus said that the game is kind of dumb right now because the balance is all over the place, and you definitely feel that at times. But on the other hand, just thinking about like Melee. I mean, that's also a pretty broken game in certain.
True, it's absolutely.
Yeah, so if a game like Melee could be, as it has a competitive scene for like 20 years at this point, and that game is actually one way I like to describe Melee is, despite how it has a lot of good qualities to it, I definitely appreciate the fast pace and how much the fans like the game because of what it offers, but it's also a very archaic game. It has a lot of problems, and although Nick All-Star brings its own share of problems to the table, it also fixes a lot of those archaic problems. In some ways, Nick All-Star Brawl feels better to play than Melee.
Do you have an example or like a particular way it feels that way?
The controls just feel more responsive to me because there's buffering in this game and there's no buffering in that one. And also, like with Melee, I feel like a big problem with that game is like you always get the leads invincibility back whenever you just and
I hear what you're saying when they've made some upgrades or they've learned some lessons, but I would also say, and Melee came out 20 years ago, so the standards and the expectations were very different. So for Melee to have it's kind of grandfathered in certain ways, where it's like in the same way that Street Fighter 2 is massively broken compared to today's standards. And if Street Fighter 2 or a game like it came out today, people would probably just laugh and say, "No, that's fun for whatever, but we're gonna again go outside and play some ball." And now Street Fighter 2 is grandfathered in because of when it came out and because of the the nostalgia, and it does have a ton of valid back and forth and such. But if you release that today, people I don't think would receive it, and I'm sort of worried that we might have that kind of a situation where it's like, yeah, you can't release Melee with Melee's problems today. And you are saying that some of those problems are fixed, but maybe not all of them.
Basically what you're saying, the fair thing to do is to compare Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl to like something like Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
I would do that, yes, because it's the much more modern title.
Okay, yes. So in Nick Smash's defense, Smash is obviously a game. I don't think Nick All-Star Brawl would be able to live up to like Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. It just has a lot more money going into it, obviously. And as you point out, they definitely need to fix some of the infinites, and like the Sandy thing, not okay. The Michelangelo thing, definitely not okay. They need to fix some of this jank, broken stuff. They need to polish up the presentation. But if you can look past that stuff, I feel like this game does have potential as a competitive game.
Okay.
For Smash players, it feels like it's that feeling you get when you're like doing the combos and stuff. And this game has a lot of that. It's like I said, it's very offensively focused, and that's exactly what a lot of players want. So that seems to be what it's catering towards.
Yeah, can you really quickly, can you say some of the things that are the most fun to do in this game?
So for me, when I was playing my sessions earlier, when I was playing Leonardo, it felt really good to get a combo going where I would get the opponent off stage and then essentially spike them with down aerial light. Mm-hmm. And it felt like Leonardo's built as this character who his strong attacks aren't really all that great. Like I felt like I was getting killed earlier by SpongeBob or Reptar's strong attacks. Mm-hmm. And when I'd hit them at similar percents, they just wouldn't die. So it feels like he's built to base people out. Then when he gets a hit, combo them into oblivion, and then spike them off the stage. He has 4 or 5 different spikes. And when you get that combo going, it just feels really good.
One of the big things that I think they're not always the most obvious, but I think this really plays into how satisfying it is to play a fighting game. The audio and the visuals of when you perform things. Like, so does the screen shake? Is there an appropriate, sound associated? Does the character fly back? Does it feel satisfying to land those hits and to hear those thwacks? Things like that. How do those things resonate with you?
The sound is about as generic as it can get. One thing I've kind of realized is that you could come into a room where a match is being played, let's say you're blindfolded or you're closing your eyes, you more than likely won't be able to identify the characters that are being played. There's no voice acting. That's
another thing we'll go back to this, but the fact that there are no voice actors for Nickelodeon cartoons feels like a huge piece of the pie is missing, but go ahead.
Yeah. It feels like the sound you get from hitting someone with Leonardo's sword is the same as SpongeBob slapping you or Reptar headbutting you. But there are a few unique sounds where it could be like, okay, that's Reptar, that's Zim. He has the electric attack, and Reptar has the fire attack. You can probably identify them from sound alone, but the fact that you can't identify what's going on from sound alone, because all the sound effects sound the same. All the strong attacks, they use the same sound effect, same light attacks, and it feels satisfying when you hit them, but not because of the sound that's happening. Because sometimes, and it takes you a second to realize that either you hit the opponent or they hit you. Because maybe you both did a little, you're both scrapping, and you both threw a smash attack out, and something happened. And there's also this rock, paper, scissors mechanic where if strong attacks, I think it's the neutral beats the down one or the up one. I don't remember which one exactly, but it causes this weird reaction, and that can also throw you off because it's not always clear when it's happening. But that could also just be an inexperienced thing.
Do you feel like the voice acting or the lack thereof is a huge issue or just a little issue? Or is it going to turn certain people off? Is it going to be a reason people don't get the game or get the game or don't continue to play it once they get it, expecting to hear, Tom Kenny's voice as SpongeBob or Dog from Cat Dog or Oblina and such. It's like when I saw that, that was just like a given. Like when I saw what she was revealed or seeing that SpongeBob was revealed, it's like it's a given that you're going to hear those because it's a cartoon, man. So much of it is the voice of the character, and for those not to be in there, it's like, are you getting the full experience? I mean, I'm sure it's much more difficult. There's a lot more red tape that goes into having that happen, and I think we saw that with Power Rangers Battle for the Grid, that it started without voice acting, and then they eventually brought voice actors into it, if I recall correctly. But do you think like that needs to happen for this game to really be successful and to really flourish, or can it get away without having voice actors?
It definitely needs voice actors, like 100%. The characters feel actually, I would say they feel kind of lifeless without the voices coming out of them, and from sound alone you cannot identify the characters, and a big part of that's the voice acting. Like I would love to hear like SpongeBob doing his little giggle thing, his little giggle when he hits somebody or something. Like,
oh, that'd be so annoying.
Yeah,
perfectly annoying.
I mean, yeah, that's SpongeBob though. He's supposed to be annoying, but we don't get that. We just get just generic sound effect. I feel like a lot of people are going to be turned off that the fact that there isn't voice acting, and it's something that needs to be addressed. It definitely needs to be patched in.
To me, it feels like this is almost sort of still like beta phase of what this game should be at this point. And that there are some things that they can absolutely do to push things forward and to get it into a better place. I guess my question for you is, if I'm deciding whether or not I want to get this game, one, should I buy it for the experience? And then also, do you think this game is going to last for more than a few months, or is it going to be sort of like a flash in the pan because of its faults?
First of all, I think your beta your analogy is probably spot on. It does feel like the game's kind of like in a beta state. It feels like the game is like 80% complete, maybe 70 or 80% around there. And it does feel like, like Thadia said, it feels like it needs like another 6 months. We do know that they're going to be releasing DLC, but let's say the game doesn't get any updates from here. I think it's already confirmed that the game will be getting updates, but hypothetically, I think the game would only last about like 6 months at best, and that's being very generous, I'd say. But if they can patch it to what it's supposed to be, I guess they could fix some of this jank. Especially important to add to the presentation, because I feel like that's something for the casual players. It feels like this game is made with the competitive player in mind. And it also feels like the casual crowd is actually getting left behind in some regards.
Oh no.
Just as an example, I played the arcade mode just out of curiosity on what it'd be like, and it doesn't feel any different from playing any regular matches. Like there's not a final boss at the end, and there's actually like speech bubbles where the characters talk to each other, but it's as generic as it gets.
And just reminding you that the voice acting isn't there.
Yeah, exactly. Leonardo will say something like "turtle power" to like SpongeBob, and SpongeBob will say something that has nothing to do. Like they're just talking at each other. Really, It just seemed like it was just phoned in, and like even like the tutorial, I was curious on what the tutorial how the game would teach you how to play. It's just a slideshow. So it just says, press this button to do this. And instead of like a gameplay segment, the game doesn't even teach you how to wave dash, by the way. Like you just have to know how to do that.
It was revealed just a few months ago, right? And then it's already out. I mean, I don't know how long it was in development. It's really hard to keep stuff like this under wraps, as we know. I think it's fair to say that it feels rushed. And like I want this game to flourish. I want it to do well because, like I said, it has so much potential with the IP, with the setting, it can be a party game. If it can crack into the competitive side of things, I don't want it to just be like, oh, that was a fun idea, and then like what's next. But I'm rooting for them. They have a lot of work, it sounds like, to still do. My fingers are crossed that things will pan out and they'll have the updates that keep people around and keep this game keep people with a serious point of view towards this game. But Justin, did you have anything else you wanted to tack on here?
Look forward to my review during the weekend. This is essentially my pre-review review, but I'm still going to be putting in time in the game, so look forward to that.
Will do. I look forward with much anticipation. Hey, thanks a lot again for coming on, man. I appreciate it. Again, we're rooting for Smash, Nick Smash, Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl. And yeah, so guys, let us know in the comments. Have you played it? Have you been having fun? Do you think it has longevity or not? So we'd love to hear about it. And let us know if you want some more coverage of this on the EventHubs podcast here, and then you want to see more segments in the future on it. Otherwise, we will see you next time.
Yep, see you then.